Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's safe and well. The 12 steps of recovery. There's many 12-step fellowships when it comes to recovery, and they all are based on the 12 spiritual principles of recovery. And these 12 spiritual principles are what you apply in your daily life, but they all run from the principles of a 12-step program. So 12-step program, there's many fellowships. Some approach it in different ways. Some do it just verbally, some do it verbally and a lot of written work, some do it a bit of both. Different horses for different courses, depending on what you find identification with or what you most feel more comfortable with. I've been through one fellowship and now I'm going to start going through another one. You know, I sat down in NA when I first come around, but I went to CA and did a 12-step program in CA. I've come back to NA. I tried doing the steps in NA before. Kept doing 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, you know, and just didn't really find my path. Went to CA, did the 12 steps in CA. I've come back and I'm going to start logging. I'm going to start doing a video log. This morning's reading was about being of service, and I just wanted to broaden my experience. You know, I finished the 12 steps. I can apply the spiritual principles in my life. I've lived over a year clean and sober. You know, it works. It just works. I'm not gonna. I don't question it anymore. It works. But I feel like, me personally, on my own little journey to broaden my own experience, I want to try a different fellowship and I want to go a different way through the steps. Better understanding, just broaden my experience, really. You know, life's too short, and I just like working on myself, and I enjoy recovery. So here we are. We're going to be going through the NA. This is step 1. The NA, this is a basic text, 6th edition, you know, and as I said, I've been through it before, and it's like, you know, when I start highlighting all the stuff, like, and because I've been through it a few times, as you can see, I've used a different highlighter on different pages, because every time I open this book to step 1, depending on where I am in my life or the things that I've been through, different things apply to me at different times. You know, every time I open it, I learn something new, because it's just, it changes, I change, and I find identification in a different word or a different meaning or a different passage. You know, I think, fucking hell, how have I missed that? I've read it loads of times. But this is the thing, you know, broadening my experience and remaining teachable at all times. So I'm going to be going through step 1 because I thought I'd give other people the chance to just watch and observe and maybe get something from it. And I'll really enjoy doing it. And this is what it's about. It's about the fucking steps. It's about being in the fucking mix and learning. And fucking, this is the graft. Sitting down, taking time for yourself, reading, learning, educating yourself about this stuff and recovery and what's wrong with you, and, you know, a bit of a self-diagnosis. Step 1 is a self-diagnosis. You know, it tells me that. Let's go into it anyway. Let's go into it. So this is step 1 in the NA way. Just to say a few things. I'm going to be giving my opinion on this, and I'm going to be working through the steps. I'm going to get in a spiritual guide, sponsorship, whatever you want to call it. Just somebody who's been through the work before, who's got a little bit more experience than me, and I'm going to be following his way. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to be putting my hands, my life and my hands and my experience to one side, and I'm going to go to somebody else who's been a little bit further down the road than me and go, can you take me through this way and show me your way of doing it? Because then I apply that to my life. Gives me a better experience, gives me more freedom, more peace of mind, and it's education. You know, I love this stuff. So here we go, step 1, DNA way. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over our addiction, our lives had become unmanageable. Now this goes into some deep stuff, this, and let's see if you can find some identification. I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to see some comments and stuff like that on the post about what's going to be said now. And I'm going to try and keep it out of the NA stuff and just like sort of apply it to normal life. It does not matter what or how much we use. In Narcotics Anonymous, staying clean had to come first. We realised that we cannot use drugs and live. When we admitted we were powerless and our inability to manage our own lives, we opened the door to recovery. No one could convince us that we were addicts. It had to be admission we had to make for ourselves. I find that interesting. We have to make it for ourselves. When some of us have doubt, we ask the question, can I control any use of substances or mood altering chemicals? Most addicts will see that controlling is possible the moment it's suggested. Whatever the outcome, we find that we cannot control the use of drugs for any length of time. I would always return to drugs. I could control it for about 2-3 weeks, and that was it. I was out the door again. Evidence, just evidence, there it is. This will clearly suggest that an addict has no control over drugs. Powerless means using drugs against our will. If you cannot stop using, how can you tell yourself you're in control? The inability to stop using, even when the greatest willpower and the most sincere desire, is what we mean when we say we have absolutely no choice. See, I would insert all my willpower, try and control it for as long as possible, but after about 2 weeks, I'd just fall off the bandwagon. I couldn't hold on to them feelings and emotions anymore. I'd feel that much at dis-ease, I'd be obsessed and compulsed to go and use again. However, we do have a choice to stop. Trying to justify our using. However, we do have a choice to stop trying to justify our using. We didn't stumble into the fellowship, brimming with love, honesty and open-mindedness or willingness. We reached a point where we could no longer continue using because of our physical, mental and spiritual pain. When we were beaten, we become willing. See, it was only when I found myself at fucking rock bottom, or after a massive fucking bender, I was like, yeah, no, fucking hell, I need to stop this. And at that point was the only little window of opportunity where I would be that fucked and that battered and bruised and broken, and it's spiritual pain, that fucking internal stuff like, fuck's sake, I can't do this anymore. I'm sick of doing this. That I was open to suggestion, because 2-3 days after that massive fucking bender, or being on that fucking, in that oblivion for a couple of days, after getting myself back on my feet and going to the gym for a couple of days and getting some fucking food in me and a bit of fresh air and getting back to work and buttering my relationships back up to fucking make everything all right again, 2-3 days, I thought my ego just reconstruct itself over the period of about 3 days, and I'd be back out and I'd be running on self-will again, thinking that I fucking knew best and thinking that I had control again, thinking that everything will be all right. Justification, rationalization led me back to doing it again eventually. It was only at that rock bottom of, after being on the sesh or being on a fucking bender for about 3-4 days, that I was willing to listen. And I was only willing to listen for a short window of time. If I didn't fucking learn anything in that short window of time, pretty much fucking doomed to just do the same thing again. Unmanageability. Our inability to control our use of drugs is a symptom of our dis-ease of addiction. We are powerless not only over drugs, but over our addiction as well. We need to admit this fact in order to recover. Addiction is a physical, mental and spiritual dis-ease that affects all areas of our lives. The physical aspect of our disease is the compulsive use of drugs, the inability to stop using once we've started. Once I started on a Friday, I weren't putting it down until Sunday, and I'd even carry on till Monday if I had the necessity things to fucking carry on, like people picking up the phone, money. If I had what it took to continue using, I would have. I was only stopped by things that would stop me from using, like no money or nobody picking up the phone, so I couldn't get any more. The mental aspect of our disease is the obsession and an overpowering desire to use, even when we were destroying our lives. That obsession is a killer. After 2-3 weeks, max 2-3 weeks, I would slip into this feeling of dis-ease and discomfort, and I would drive myself into a corner mentally, physically and spiritually, until I was in that much dis-ease, my head would just go, fuck it, that's all it was, fuck it. And straight after the fuck it button, I'm out of the door. and I couldn't fucking wait to get that first one in. And as soon as I stuck that first one in, that's it. The fire's lit. You know, we're on it. All bets are off. And I'm heading for oblivion. The spiritual part of our disease is the total self-centeredness. Self-centeredness, that's the spiritual thing. I wasn't thinking about fucking anybody else when I was in that state of mind. I had that obsession all over me. I didn't sit there and going, oh, well, what about my daughter? And what about what my mum's going to think? Or what about my mum's peace of mind when I go missing for 2 days? And what if I let my daughter down on Monday? You know, if I go out this weekend, how am I going to be on Monday? I'm going to be fucking absolute mess. And I'm going to be in a really fucking shit mood when I go and pick my daughter up. You know, she doesn't deserve that. Self-centered. Wasn't thinking about anyone but myself. You know, I just wanted to fix me, and I wanted to fix me right now. And I didn't fucking care what consequence it had caused to anybody else. We felt that we could stop whenever we wanted to, despite the evidence. I'll just give you all the evidence. To the contrary, denial, substitution, rationalisation, justification, distrust of others, guilt, embarrassment, dereliction, degradation, isolation, and loss of control are all results of our dis-ease. Our dis-ease is progressively incurable and fatal. It'll kill you. It will kill you. Eventually. Most of us relieve to find out we have a dis-ease instead of a moral deficiency. I say dis-ease because I don't see it as a disease. It's like the disease, but disease comes from the two words as being in dis-ease. There's something wrong. When there's something wrong, we look for something to medicate it. So when we feel in dis-ease, you know, I have a headache, I feel at dis-ease, I take fucking paracetamol, just to keep it simple. I find myself at dis-ease and I used fucking drugs or substances to change the way I feel. That's just keeping it very simple for those people that are not in recovery. We are not responsible for our disease, but we're responsible for our recovery. Now, you're not responsible for the headache that you've got, but you're responsible whether you fucking take paracetamol, which is just going to fix the headache, but not fix the problem. Do you get that? Most of us tried to stop using on our own, but we were unable to live with or without drugs. Eventually, we realised we were powerless over our addiction. I've just mentioned loads of things there, going back through the thing that we could not live without drugs. You know, at some point, somewhere down the road, I would always return. And if I would always fucking return, how can I tell myself that I can live without them? It's like people think that going 2-3 weeks at a time, or even a month at a time, without using, and then returning to using, which is some sort classed as normal, and using it like, if you're doing that, how can you tell yourself you can live without drugs? How can you do that? You can't tell yourself I can live without it. But if you're always returning to doing it, then it means that you can't live without it. So, you know, different horses for different courses, different meanings for different things, different people, different scenarios, and different opinions. Many of us try to stop using on sheer willpower, 2-3 weeks at a time. That's me personally. This action was temporary solution. It was I was just trying to fix, or, you know, get to the gym, eat better, buy some new clothes, get an haircut, go get my teeth whitened, go on the sunbeds, new trainers, get some attention from somebody. Just endless amounts of temporary solutions before I'd end up back in that dis-ease and trying to fix myself again. I'd always concentrate on something that was just fucking material and wouldn't satisfy Neil's needs for any length of time whatsoever, until eventually I'd always return to the first one and I'd obsess about the first one. Tried everything else first, and then I'd go, all right, nothing works, and I'd think about the first one. We saw that willpower alone would not work for any length of time. We tried countless other remedies: psychiatrists, hospital, recovery houses, lovers, new towns, new jobs. Everything that we tried failed. We begin to see that we had rationalised the most outrageous sort of nonsense and justified the mess we had made of our lives with drugs. I've just think it's like, until we let go of our reservation, a reservation, right, is basically, well, if X, Y, or Z happens, I'm gonna get smashed. That's it. If this happens, I'm gonna get smashed. No matter what. Like if such a body doesn't turn up today, I'm just gonna get smashed. If such a body doesn't act the way I want them to act, I'm gonna do this. That's what a reservation is. You know, I'm holding I'm reserving a place in time, dependent on another, on somebody's action, or some action or some event to happen or to occur, in order to give me good excuse to use again. That's what a reservation is. Always in the future, you know, if X, Y, and Z happens in my life going forward, I'm going to use again. No matter what they are, the foundations are recovery in danger. So if you've got reservations, you're not in safe hands. A reservations rob us of the benefit of the program. So you start working the 12 spiritual principle program in your life, and it's possible to do that. But if you've got a reservation, like i.e. a family member dies, you know, you've been clean for a couple of months, and you've been clean for a year, or God knows how long, and you hold in a reservation that if somebody, like, you know, personally, or somebody close to you dies, and you're like, I can't deal with, you know, you think to yourself, well, if that happened, if the worst thing, the worst case scenario happened to you in your life, would you use again? Would you use that as an excuse? That's what it says. You could be working a program, but if you're holding a reservation, it'll rob you of your recovery. Then, and only then, can we be helped to recover from our dis-ease of addiction. Now the question is, if we are powerless, how can a 12-step program help us? We begin by asking for help. The formula, not the foundation of our program, is the admission that we, of ourselves, do not have the power over our addiction. When we can accept this fact, we have completed the first part of step 1. That's the first part. Just going, look, I'm pretty fucked. I need you to help me. The second admission must be made before our foundation is complete. If we stop here, we will only know half the truth. We are great ones for manipulating the truth. I've highlighted manipulating the truth. I've highlighted all this, but I think manipulating the truth is very fucking true for me. You know, I'd always manipulate everything that I've just said. I would manipulate, rationalise and justify a way around to means and ways to get more, or to use again. We say on one hand, yes, I am powerless over my addiction. And on the other hand, when I get my life together, i.e. 2-3 weeks later, you know, I've been back in the gym, I've been at sunbeds a few times, I've cut my hair, you know, the missus is talking to me again, and, you know, I've showered my fucking little girl with loads of gifts again, you know, and, you know, I've got over the embarrassment and, you know, the sort of like over fucking exerted loads of fucking time and attention to everyone that I've hurt around me to try and mop up the fucking mess I made 2 weeks ago by being a dickhead again and going out and getting fucking smashed and going out on a fucking 3-day bender. And regardless of the fucking mental, physical harm that I did to myself, I'm on about the harm of others. Try and pull all my life back together, pay all my bills and stuff like that, take care of a bit of my responsibility. And as soon as I'd feel like everything was all right again, I'd go, you can use again now, Neil. When I get my life together, I can handle drugs. Such thoughts and actions led us back to active addiction. I've highlighted that 4 or 5 times because I've been through this step 1 at least 4 or 5 times. If we cannot control our addiction, how can we control our lives? We felt miserable without drugs and our lives were unmanageable. Unemployability, dereliction and destruction are easily seen characteristics of unmanageable life. Unemployability, dereliction and destruction are easily seen as characteristics of an unmanageable life. I've put internal in there. I've marked that as internal because, You know, I still had a job, but I worked for myself. I wasn't very employable. If I worked for myself and I was any sort of fucking sane boss, I'd have fucking fucked me right off. You know, because my time at work was just, it was grim. You know what I mean? It's like fucking running late, half days, this, that. It's like there was never any production there. You know, God knows how I managed to keep my fucking job. Pretty blessed to sort of like run my own fucking firm, do you know what I mean, or my own business. The destruction and dereliction of me as a person is what happened, and the characteristics of that. I was shy, isolated, I'd rather be on my own, I couldn't function in a social environment. The dereliction and destruction of my self-worth, my self-belief, my, you know, I was broken inside. You know, I couldn't function as a normal human being. I didn't have the ability to love or be caring and kind to other people. It was all internal for me. I couldn't find any gratitude. Every single thing around me, even though I had all the material assets and everything looked all right and rosy from the outside looking in, I didn't feel any emotional attachment to anything in my life. I just didn't care. I was that selfish and self-centered. It was just all about Neil. As long as Neil could continue using and try and keep everything up as this big facade and balance all these plates, you know, make sure my relationship's all right, make sure my daughter's getting looked after, make sure this, and it's all just a false sense of pride, you know. And as long as I could sort of like keep my pride unaffected, I'd always convince myself that was all right. So all mine was internal. You know, I come into the rooms of recovery with a car, a place to stay, nice clothes, you know, looking half decent, you know, full head of fucking hair, you know, been at sunbeds, been at gym, I looked in decent shape, but inside I was just battered, broken and bruised, you know. I got to a point in my using where reality got that painful when I wasn't using. I felt like suicidal. I was going through serious mental health issues, and it was like the drug wasn't working anymore, and it led me into a really bad place where, you know, I sort of like contemplated suicide. And that scared the shit out of me, and that's when I sort of like, you know, I need to fucking go and get help. It doesn't have to be like that for you. It doesn't have to be like that for anybody, because the answer lies in the 12 steps of recovery. And I got clean. I didn't have to go to jail. I didn't have to be locked up or in an institution to go and find recovery and live a clean and sober life. It's available to us all. Just wanted to say that, you know, I'm probably going a bit off track, but here we go. Our families generally are disappointed, baffled and confused by our addiction, and often desert or disown us. Becoming unplayable, socially acceptable, and reunited with our families, exactly what I've just talked about, does not make our lives manageable. Social acceptability does not equal recovery. That's what I've just talked about. I would do that. I would make sure that everybody thought I was all right. Everybody was like, yeah, sound, build up some trust again. You know, do all that stuff, like sort of make everything look all right again and make everything feel all right, and then I just fucking use again. Social acceptability does not equal recovery. As long as people and the social aspects of my life thought that I was all right and I looked all right, and I thought that I looked all right, I thought that I was sound, you know what I mean? I thought that I had the power to fucking use again. We have found that we had no choice except to completely change the old way of thinking or go back to using. That's fucking like, I'm talking about it. When we give it our best, it works. I've been giving it my best and it works. You know, I'm sat here today, clean and sober, living a life, beautiful life, beyond my own expectations, without the use of drugs. It works for us like it has worked for others. When we could no longer stand our old ways, we began to change. From this point forward, we began to see that every day clean is a successful day. No matter what happens, surrender means not having to fight anymore. We accept our addiction and life just the way it is. We become willing to do whatever is necessary to stay clean, even the things that we don't like doing. I didn't like going to recovery. I didn't like going to fucking meetings at night. I didn't like reading a book about telling me that I was fucked. I didn't like doing all that stuff. I didn't like picking up the phone to people and going, you know, showing my emotions and my feelings. I didn't like doing all that stuff. I thought that I knew fucking best, and it always led me back to drugs. And I convinced myself that I knew what was going on, and I didn't. And then I didn't know fuck all at the time. Blessed to be educated around this stuff today. Until we took step one, we were full of fear and doubt. At this point, many of us felt lost and confused. We felt different. I felt lost, confused, and different because none of my friends were supporting me. So I felt lost because all the people that I knew at the time didn't support me. I didn't feel like I had anybody around me who supported me. I felt confused because I've never been in that state where I tried to stop using for a long period of time. I realised how sick I was, and I tried to stop using. It was confusing for me because I felt all these feelings and emotions, and I felt different. I felt different because I didn't think that I was an addict, but the people that was around me, I didn't fit in with them anymore because I didn't feel like they did. I couldn't use like other people did. And I went to recovery, I didn't identify with addicts before either, because my perception or my image I held in my mind, my opinion of what an addict looked like, wasn't who I looked like. So I felt different. Upon working the steps, we affirmed our surrender to the principles of NA. Only after surrender were we able to overcome the alienation of addiction. Help for addicts begins only when we are able to admit complete defeat. I'm fucking done. Help me. That's it. It's as simple as that. I know fuck all about this. Please help me. Go to somebody who fucking knows what they're doing. Go somebody who's got to fucking... Go and find somebody who's armed with the facts. Mate, I can't stop fucking using no matter what. Bit of self-honesty. Fucking help me. That's it. That's massive. That just that little bit there, trying to keep it simple, was the best thing I ever did for myself. This can be frightening, but it is the foundations on which we built our lives. It blows my mind, this book, because as I'm talking about it, I'm feeling it, because I'm going through this step one, and I take this stuff seriously today. Step one means that we do not have to use fucking what. For somebody who continues to use and continues to cause chaos, dereliction, and consequence in their life, just to know that you don't have to use ever again. Never again do you have to use. And this is a great freedom. It took a while for some of us to realise that our lives had become unmanageable. For others, the unmanageability of their lives was the only thing that was clear. We knew in our hearts that drugs had the power to change us into something that we didn't want to be. Selfish bastard, a shit dad, a selfish son, horrible fucking partner at the time. I just it was just all about me, and I wasn't very caring, loving and kind either to most of the people that crossed my path. Being clean and working the steps, we realised from our chains, we were released from our chains. However, none of the steps work by magic. We do not just say the words and the step of this step, we learn to live them. We see for ourselves that the program has something to offer us. We have found hope. We can learn to function in the world in which we live. We can find meaning and purpose in life and be rescued from the insanity and depravity and death. When we admit we are powerless and our inability to manage our own lives, we open the door to a power greater than ourselves to help us. The power greater than yourself at the moment, if you're not in recovery, is the groups of recovery. That is a power greater than yourself. They're the people that have got the power that you need to stay clean and sober. Educating yourself. This book is a power greater than yourself. You get this book and you start reading this, that becomes a power greater than yourself. I'm going to explain what a power greater than yourself is. Power greater than yourself can be anything at a time. Just to put it into context to people that are not in recovery, if I am driving down the road and I end up with a flat tyre and I've got fuck all or any means, and I've got a spare tyre and I've not got anything or any spanners or anything in my boot to change my tyre, a power greater than myself is the AA. I ring the AA, they come, they put a new tyre on my fucking car, and I'm on my way again. That means that I'm left powerless, and I need something to help me. I need something with more power. A doctor is someone you know, when you feel like when you're sick, you go to a doctor and he gives you medication or whatever it is. That's a power greater than yourself. There's many forms of a power greater than yourself, but at the moment, if you're new into recovery, a power greater than yourself, the first power greater than myself was the Reams of recovery. Going to meetings, getting in a meeting and fucking listening, sitting down, listening and learning. That was my power greater than myself. It is not where we were that counts, but where we are going. Always concentrate on where you're going. Just one word of advice. Always concentrate on where you're going. Try not to think too much about where you've been. These steps will filter out, tidy up, clean house, sort all your problems out, go through all past resentments and fears and all that stuff and traumas and stuff, and it will help you get through all this stuff. But the steps are one at a time. Just concentrate on where you're going. That's the end of step one. So I'm going to be doing a lot of written work now. I think there's about 64 questions in the working guide. So I'm going to be doing that. So that's just my opinion on step one. Just a verbal side of step one. So I'm going to be doing a lot of writing from now on, so there might be some other videos in between this and that one, but yeah, this is step one. Follow me. Once I've done the step one, I've shared it out with the spiritual guide, somebody who's been through the work before me, or sponsorship. I don't like the word sponsorship but once someone else has took me through that, and even if I get stuck on a few questions in that working guide, I might even come on and make a video of some of the questions in the working guide, because they can be quite difficult. I hope this has helped you. If you find this content of any interest to you or value, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay blessed.